Hi, I'm Cassie Brighter, and we're having the Sex Talk. Today with me I have Elle Le Blanc, the Alchemist of Sensuality. Elle's mission is to free your erotic spirit. Elle's website is ladyl411.com. Hi, Elle, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Cassie. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge to get Elle to wear something other than black today, right?
Yeah, most of my wardrobe is black, especially in the wintertime. So here I am in all my full color glory.
And you look great. I mean, you look great in black too. How did you arrive at the moniker The Alchemist of Sensuality?
The Alchemist of Sensuality. Well, that I came by that moniker. I don't know, like a couple years ago. Um, I had been blogging about sex and sensuality since 2012. And as time went on, I realized that being spiritual, like spirituality, is a big part of my life also.
I see.
And so for the longest time, I would only just blog about sex and sensuality only. And then I decided to blend the two together and start bringing out a little bit of my spiritual side.
I like that, and I really like the word alchemist in there because in my experience, so much of our process of discovering our sexuality also touches on transformational journeys and
Absolutely.
discovering ourselves and freeing ourselves and opening up to new lands, new experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I myself, I do, a lot of meditating and journaling, and that's all kind of a part of my own like spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
I like to incorporate that with sexuality.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we started, and you were saying, we were talking about how you arrived at this point and what triggered the process that enables you to be this free sexually.
I will actually go a little bit prior to where I did my exploration, but just prior to that, when I started having like these thought processes that things kind of need to change. In 2006, I was actually living on the Oregon coast, and there really isn't a lot to do there. It was a very, very small town. And so I would, I spent a lot of time like at my house on my computer. Then I would do other like various things out and about. But so while I was on my computer, I ran into this one lady who had a blog, and she was blogging about her own experiences and her own explorations sexually. And she was talking about open relationships and being polyamorous and stuff like that. And so my mind really became open to that idea, and I kind of wanted to start exploring it, but I didn't really have a lot of ways to explore. I mean, the town that
Not in that small town, right?
Right, yeah. And it was just like an awareness, and it was just something that I knew I wanted to explore. And it seemed like I would get into these relationships, and I would like talk to people that I was in the relationship with, and I would tell them I want to try this thing that I've been like really curious about, wanting to explore. I want to explore open relationships. And I would get together with someone, and they'd be like, hey, that sounds great. Let's do it. And it seemed like I wanted to do it. And like the moment I would talk about like who I met this person, I want to get together with them, the other person that I was with would be like, oh no, I don't think so. And they were like, they inevitably would be just like, I don't think I could do that. After we had this like big long discussion, well, I went through a few different series of relationships like that. So I finally, in 2012, I did meet this man that actually was fully in this open lifestyle, and he had a polyamorous relationship with his wife, and I actually got to meet them together and got to know both of them. And I met this man at a munch, and a munch is a meet and greet for people that are into kink and BDSM, and which I'm sure you probably already know what it is.
But it's good that you define it, and I think that
Yeah.
meeting people in such an intentional space is a stronger indicator that this person is going to be for real and not just trying to appease you.
Exactly, right. And I did find someone that fully, truly was in this lifestyle, which I was like, yay, this is what I've been wanting. And he would like to, see how I can word this, like to not push buttons, but just kind of, would kind of like present things in different ways to get me thinking, to like think outside the box, and to like want to get me to want to do the exploring on my own. Like, he wasn't trying to push me into anything, but he would always make it like it was my idea. Like, hey, what do you think about this? I know this is something you've thought about before, or whatever. It was always like, he was always trying to position it so it was my idea, which was a good thing. And he would always get me to like push myself a little further in a good way. Like,
yeah, and I like the idea of presenting something as an option but without any kind of pressure.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And so he when I first got into the open lifestyle, and I went to the munches, people kept asking me, have you been to the sex club? Have you been to the sex club? And that was like the most popular question. Like, everybody wanted to know, have I been to the sex club? And my answer was always no, and I don't know if I'll ever be ready to go to the sex club. And no, there, everyone at the munches was like, that's fine, whatever, it might not be for you. Like, no one really tried to push me into it. Well, so I met this guy that I was telling you about. His name is Tim. So I met Tim, who's truly into this lifestyle and everything. We ended up going, he ended up picking me up and taking me to a few of the different munches, and we started to become play partners and stuff like that. And I knew he had other people that he played with. And he says to me, oh, I know you told me at one point in time you don't really want to go to the sex club, and that's fine. I'm not like here to push you into that. But he says to me, I'll be going on such and such day at such and such time. After them, I'm going to pick you up to the munch, because it was just what he did. And afterwards, I'm going to go to the sex club, because that's just what I normally do. And
which, by the way, this might be a good pointer in the way of how do you present a new idea to a lover or to a partner. And that's one way to do it, which is to just incidentally say, well, this is something that I'm going to be dabbling with, and you don't have to participate, you don't have to come along.
Right.
But it's available, it's one of the menu options, so to speak.
Right. And it's something I knew about him. He told me right from the get-go, like, this is what I do. But this time he actually like formally invited me along. He was like, I know you said no, but I want to respect your boundaries, but I also want to include you too. I don't want you to feel excluded in any way. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like hemming and hawing. No, I don't really think I want to go to the sex club, because I didn't know what to expect, and it's just something that I didn't think I would ever like or want to be a part of. And he goes, "Oh, that's okay." He goes, I'm gonna go with or without you, and I'm going to take Alexis, my other play partner, and I'm like, what? No, you can't take Alexis and not me. Alexis.
Did a factor of jealousy play into this?
Absolutely.
Or was it competitiveness?
No, jealousy. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And so immediately I was like, no, you can't just like take her without me. I've got to come too. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, how could I like switch my like, mind just like that? And so So, you know.
But one thing that I would like to put forward is that it's very different. The concept of like, are you going to go to a sex club, which could be really intimidating, going by yourself, all these strangers,
right.
versus going with two lovers that you know.
Right, right. Well, I hadn't met Alexis yet at that point in time, but I had the chance to meet her before, or at the munch that we went to before going to the sex club. So I decided, yes, I will do this. The time leading up to it, I almost like canceled out a few different times. I was like, no, I can't do that because I'm not like that type of person. I don't cancel out on things. So I said, yes, I'll do this. And I was very happy to meet Alexis. And of course I had this like picture of her like painted in my head. You know, I was like, is she going to, you know, accept me? Is she going to be, you know, friendly? Is she going to be nice? And Tim, of course, assured me that she was going to be all those things. And she was super lovely. Like, when we first like met each other, we greeted each other and we gave each other a hug, just like we were old friends, because we had heard so much about each other that we had kind of gotten, you know, used to this other person, like hearing about them.
And I want to stop a bit there because I really want to kind of honor or acknowledge the solace that you find sometimes in the metamor relationship, in the lover of your lover. You can really bond and you can form really neat friendships there.
Oh yeah, and we did. I mean, we remained lifelong friends, you know, and I can truly say that. Yeah, we ended up. We went to the munch. We went to the club, the sex club, and she actually, Tim and her and I, we had a threesome, and that I mean, never had a threesome. And one of the first conversations that I had with Tim about exploring sexuality, I said to him I had never been in a threesome and I'd never had played with another girl before, and I told him that I really wanted those two things. Actually, I had like years ago I made a dream board and I actually put like a picture representing a threesome. It wasn't like sexual, but it was a guy and two girls from a movie where they had a threesome. I don't remember what movie.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions, because threesomes are actually tricky. There could be a sense of like, people are not paying enough attention to me, or I don't know who to focus on at this particular point, or something like that. So you said that you had a really good threesome. Do you know what made it successful, and do you have any tips for our listeners?
Yeah, I do. One of the things that what Tim and Alexis did, since they were both like very seasoned at doing these things, they were like, let's focus on me.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and it was very sweet. I felt totally taken care of. Like, I felt just like I was just cradled by them and just like held in such
and this is something that we're not intentional enough about in all kind of sexual interactions, whether it be a threesome or a twosome or whatever. We sometimes are uncoordinated in terms of who should be the focus of attention. I am really comfortable. I'm very willing to focus entirely on my lover if they tell me, could we focus on me tonight? And if a lover tells me, I really want to focus on you tonight, then I can be present for that, and I can shift to receiving instead of giving. This is something that I strongly encourage everyone to be more intentional about, because something that's a complete waste of time is and I'm thinking of Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent in terms of giving and receiving and taking and allowing. If a lover's going down on me and all I'm doing is allowing them to be there, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
checked out,
right,
and the other person's trying to give me, we're both wasting our time.
Right.
So and in a threesome especially, if somebody doesn't feel the center of attention they were expecting to be the center of attention, then they could go home with a crushing disappointment. So it's important to talk about these dynamics. And by the way, the night is young. You can always say, well, we're going to focus on this person and then we're going to shift our attention to somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's good to have those dynamics a little bit more honed in rather than
Oh,
it happen
yeah.
accidentally.
Right. Well, one thing that is like important when if you're exploring sex clubs or sex parties or whatever, actually Tim and I, we used to host sex parties at his house, like big huge
Mm-hmm.
ones where we would get between 60 and 98 people.
Wow.
And I would actually take people on a tour of his house and explain like all the different rules and stuff that we had. And one of the things that I always suggested, and I think this is a good point to just interject this, is if you and like a person that like let's say you and your lover are going to explore a sex club, discuss first like what are the boundaries, like what are you there for? Are you there to just be voyeurs? Are you there to explore other people? Are you there to show off and have sex and be an exhibitionist? Like,
Mm-hmm.
set some boundaries and expectations, because if you don't, and you can go into these situations and let's say in your mind you want just you and your lover to just explore each other's body and have people watch you, whereas your lover wants to go and explore everybody else, you know. So
Uh-huh.
it's really good to kind of lay down some groundwork. So,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
or lay down
we
some
talk about
boundaries.
boundaries, and I'd like to expand that
Mm-hmm.
because a few other things that could potentially be discussed. This is a great conversation in the car on the way there, or the night before, or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be really sexy to talk
Mhm.
about these things.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Boundaries, agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I counseled a couple through a conflict that they had because they were in a sex party together, and he went off and he engaged with somebody else,
Mhm.
which is outside of their agreements with each other.
Right, yeah.
And he did it absent-mindedly because he's dumb.
Right.
Not out of any kind of malice or because
Right,
there's anything
yeah.
wrong with the relationship.
Mhm.
And she immediately went into a little bit of a spin about the strength of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a person can just be dumb.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, so it's good to have the agreements, and it's good to
Mhm.
discuss also like what would be the conflict resolution if those agreements are not met, and then also expectations, like what would make me feel complete about this experience.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good to talk about. But anyway, it sounds like you went there and you had a great time.
Absolutely, yeah. Like they made sure that that I was very like well taken care of. Like Tim knew that there could have been potentially like a jealousy issue,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why he had both of them like focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she, when we all like came to completion and had our fun, she was like, I gotta go. She's like looking at her like watch, because she was gonna be tied up with rope, like doing like a little rope show with someone. So
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
I'll be a little tied up.
Yeah, exactly. So we had to let her go, and then afterwards, Tim and I, we went through the food buffet and we sat and ate and discussed, which I thought was so cool. He was like, "Let's sit down, let's have a conversation about this."
Oh wow,
like,
there's another learning right there.
yeah, like what did you like about this? What didn't you like about this? Yeah,
I recently had a tryst with a man, and something that I found. See, I've been with women a few times, and there's always this after kind of like discussion of like, what did you like, what did you not like, what should we do differently next time. I was with this man, and he was down and he was putting on his pants, and I'm like, let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good moment for information gathering.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't.
Oh no.
It was funny. Yeah.
Well, Tim's a talker. Tim and I,
Yeah.
we're still friends, you know.
Mhm.
So, but another thing that was super important and a very good learning experience, and very good transformative experience, I'm going to say, is about this whole experience
Mhm.
is one of the reasons why I didn't want to go to the sex club is because there was just so many unknowns, you know. Like, am I going to be expected to perform sexually in front of people? Or am I
Right.
going to have to take off my clothes and be naked in front of people?
Mhm.
And to me, I didn't really, I didn't, before I went to the club, I was just like, no, I just don't want to do this. You know, another thing I was worried about is like shame. Like, is someone gonna see me like waiting in line to get into the club and know what the club is, even though there's like no sign on it? Everyone knows at the club, but like, is someone going to see me on the street? Yeah. But I didn't know all that, you know.
I keep thinking about ways where there's lessons to be learned here, because if you think about introducing a new experience to your lover, or even if you're just beginning to date with someone, these are some of the big concerns. What's the framework of consent? Am I going to be pushed into doing something that I don't want to do? Am I going to be pushed into some kind of performance that I don't want? What kind of emotional work will I have to bring into this?
Right.
And then the other aspect of it is shame, right? And that could be a number of things. And I really want to get to, before we're done, I definitely want to get into this overcoming shame conversation, which is really important, which because
segueing into.
Yeah, which is so much of what impedes us
right
from exploring sexual adventures is shame.
Yeah. I will let you know that Tim and I did have the talk in the car or whatever. We had the talk about like the expectations and the boundaries and stuff like that. So we already had those laid out. Like, I knew they weren't going to be like going and searching for other people, bringing them in or anything like that. You know, it was just all of us were going to go into a private room and we were gonna like have our fun. So that was already discussed, but I'm talking like prior to that, I had all these like in my mind, like what's gonna happen, you know. And if I would have went with anyone else, who knows what could have happened, you know. It could have been a totally different experience. But one of the things that I had was I had a lot of feeling of shame about my own body. And I've always felt like I was too thin. My boobs aren't big enough. I'm just not enough. You know, am I pretty enough? And so one of the things that was like really transformative and eye-opening for me is when I got into the club, I would go in the club. There's certain areas where you can be like naked, and other parts where it's not like you can't just like walk around naked, where they have the food buffet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and so I got to where I was seeing people in different various stages of dress and undress. You know, some areas some people would be completely naked and they'd be like having sex, and some areas would be like they'd be in a room and like the curtains would be open and like everyone was like naked. Like several people were like naked and having sex and all writhing around and stuff. And, you know, another area, you know, it'd be like a couple that you would see, or you would maybe see someone like taking their clothes off or whatever. And what I saw was there was different people, all different sizes, all different shapes, all different colors. And it was like they didn't seem like they were self-conscious about. Once they got in there and we were like, everyone was like doing their thing, they were just like in the moment, like having fun and doing their thing, and not like, oh my God, my boobs, you know, are too small or whatever, you know. They were like, all right, you know, I'm having fun with my lovers, and, you know, let's see what we can like do tonight, you know. And I noticed it was just a very freeing experience. And me just having been in that room, like that was when I was in the private room with my people, it was the first time that I had been in a threesome. It was the first time that I'd ever had played with another girl, because I had a lot of I'd been bi-curious for a long time, many years, and I wouldn't allow myself to do that, to go there and do that, because I myself was religious when I was growing up, but I wasn't raised religious. It was my choice to be religious. Everyone else in my family.
Do you feel that some aspect of it was escaping your sexuality, was drawing away from your sexuality? Some kind of a fear of your own body, your own physicality?
I don't know. I mean, it was interesting because I'd been religious for a long time, And even though I was religious, I was still a sexual person because I didn't have any other vices. Like I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't.
So it wasn't
do
a conflict.
drugs.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. It just was more. I just had my own like internal shame. Just I was. Well, I was always told it's not right. Like, you know, you shouldn't masturbate. You shouldn't, you know, have sex before you're married. You shouldn't have sex with, you know, the same sex.
By the way, you should have sex before you're married. You absolutely
right,
should.
Exactly. But these are the things that I.
You should never buy a brand new car without ever taking it for a test drive.
But now I'm like I'm totally different. Now I'm like explore your. That's why my tagline is my mission is free your erotic spirit. You know, I believe that here in the United States, especially, there's just way too many hang-ups over shame, like over sexual shame. Everyone's ashamed of their sexuality. Everyone's ashamed of their bodies. There's just too much shame, and it's just it's like I relate it to like having like a big bag of like a big sack of shit on your back, and it's like weighing you down and weighing you down, and you get to the point where you just have to like throw it off, and then you feel lighter, and you're like, wow, I'm glad I got rid of all that bag of stuff that I didn't want and need. I mean, that's your shame. It's just this like big bag of shit that once you finally just let go of it, then you're like, now I can be free. And so I got to that point, and one of the stepping stones to getting that point was being there at that club. It was a very, it was a great experience.
There's something about watching out of shape people have sex, because for a lot of us, our only experience of watching other naked bodies and having sex is porn. There's something that's really negative about porn in the fact that these are athletes. These are freaks of nature. They're chosen for their biological acumen. They are very pretty, very young, and very athletic, and very energetic, and very open with their sexuality in a way that the most of us are not. And so because of that, it's fun to watch acrobats perform.
Right, but it's not real life.
It's not relatable if we try to think in terms of, especially if you're a middle-aged woman and you're looking at this and you're trying to compete with a 23-year-old giggly girl, and you're thinking, I'll never be that. And so we don't watch enough middle-aged people have sex. We don't watch enough fat people have sex. We don't watch enough people who have scars or stretch marks have sex. I mean, we never get to see that. And so in situations like this, one of the things about sex positive communities is you get to see regular people walk around naked, and you start thinking differently about your body. You start thinking, maybe my body is not so awful.
Right, and that's what it was like at the club, because there was literally every different shape and size of person, and it was a very good experience. I will definitely say that. And
and this is a really good segue to talk about what it's like for a woman over 40 to show your body naked.
Right. Well, that's the next thing, and I was just like thinking, yes, we need to segue into that. I am 51. I started dancing as a stripper at age 48.
Wow.
Yeah, and basically the story about that is I ended up taking 6 years off from working, and I had some health problems, got those a little bit under control, but my money was starting to run out, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I actually was doing webcamming before that, so I got used to showing off my body, and I am an exhibitionist. I'm not a voyeur, so I like to show off. I like to, you know, I like for people to see me naked. Back when I was going to that club, I was super self-conscious, you know, and I was like, what are people going to think? Are they going to judge me?
What was it like to get up there for the first time?
Dancing? Well, yeah, I'll explain that. Oh, when I said the club, I meant like the sex club, actually. But, about dancing, so here's the thing. I did have this background of having been to the sex club for like a few years. So I got used to being an exhibitionist and actually people seeing me completely naked, people seeing me have sex in front of other people, and people would come and watch. They would come into that one room where it was called the like the couples room, and so people would come in to just be like voyeurs and watch. So I got used to that. I got used to people seeing my body, but dancing naked's a totally different thing. So like I said, I started when I was 48. I was doing webcamming, you know. I asked my friend, what should I do? I need to start making money, but I've got like this big, you know, 6-year gap in my work history. I have no current references, no current resume. What should I do? And she's like, well, why don't you strip? And I'm like, who the hell is going to want to see me strip? I'm almost 50. I've got 2 left feet. I have no rhythm. And she's like, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You're gorgeous and you don't need to have rhythm. Doesn't matter if you can dance or not. You just artfully just take your clothes off, you know? I'm like, oh, right. Okay, whatever. And the money started running out, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So I just like walked into a club, and one of the first clubs I went into, they never called me back, but I didn't give up. I was like, I need to make money somehow. So I went into another club, and they ended up hiring me. So pretty much just like right on the spot. And so at that point in time, I was comfortable, like I said, with people seeing my body. But what I had a big challenge with was up here, what was going on up here. And what I was hearing up here, the voice was saying, in my head was saying, all the other girls are prettier than you. They're younger than you. They've got bigger tits than you. You know, what are you doing? You know, and at first it was hard. I mean, doing this job was not easy because, especially when you have that, like, you know, that like chatter, and I had to overcome it. You know, I had to start like programming a different message, you know.
Yeah, and this is I think really useful in the bedroom if you're stripping for your lover, or if you're expecting your lover. I'm going to flip this. I'm going to put it on the other side. If you're expecting your lover to do anything adventurous sexually, please realize, pause for a second and think in terms of the self-consciousness factor. And it might not be that they're reluctant to try it, especially like, for example, undressing in front of you or dancing for you or something like that, which can feel really vulnerable. It's not necessarily that it might be uncomfortable doing this for you or that they don't care enough about you sexually to do this for you, but it's very intimidating. And I've tried pole dancing at one point, and it was probably the scariest. And I have paraglided. And this felt scarier than paragliding. It feels really open to disaster, so to speak. So it's something that I want you to be considerate and compassionate about when somebody is trying to bring this for you. But also, like, be compassionate for yourself if you're trying to lean into this and you find yourself having trouble with it.
It's a vulnerable place sometimes to be in. To be completely naked in front of a stranger, in front of your lover or whatever.
Especially when their focused attention is on parts of your body.
Right, exactly. And like just like revealing it all to where someone can see every single inch of you. Like literally. Yeah. Like I like to say, I show off my butthole for strangers for money.
Exactly. I really like that sentence because there's not the same impact if you say, well, you know, I flash my titties or something like that. There's something blasé about flashing your titties, you know. It's something that you can do at spring break with much problem. But when you're on all fours spreading your cheeks for a stranger, that could be terrifying.
It's a vulnerable spot to be in. But you get over it, you know. I mean, if it's truly what you want to do, like if it's true, you know, I'm I'm a sexual human being. Yes, I enjoy what I do for a living.
Do you find any of this empowering? Is there aspect of this that
Yes,
gives you pride or strength or something like that?
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, now I where I used to just look at my body and myself as in, oh, I'm just not enough, I'm not good enough. Now I look at it as I feel like I'm a truly amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm sure someone probably is going to be like, oh, well, that's silly. You're a stripper and you think you're amazing. And it's not that I think I'm all that in a bag of chips. No, it's not that. But I don't know. I feel like what I'm doing is just quite remarkable, in itself, to just be able to get up on a stage and to perform like that. And at any age, not just my age, you know, but even my age, like, I don't know of anyone else that has started dancing at age 48. Like, I mean, that's like almost unheard of.
What would you say to, and I'm going to pick a little bit of an extreme example. What would you pick about a woman in her 50s who has never as much as undressed with the light on in front of her lover,
Mm-hmm.
and is trying to dare herself to be a little bit more open with her body
Mm-hmm.
in front of a lover, or maybe the idea of going to a topless beach or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome the fears? How do you get there?
Well, I had to, and this is the reason why I bring my spirituality into it, why I blended my website, the spirituality with the sexuality. This is what I did and how I do it. And for everyone, like everyone else's journey might be different, but I had to just like get like real with myself. I had to go inward, like I said, meditate, and even walking by myself is like a form of meditation. Journaling, reprogramming the chatter in my mind, like instead of every day hearing, they're younger than you, they're prettier than you, their boobs are bigger than yours. Program it to, I'm an amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a badass. I mean, I will even go as far as to say that. And no matter what you do, you can tell yourself these things and you can start believing it instead
Mm-hmm.
of the negative chatter, which is just going to make you spiral further downward. So
Exactly. I have a theory that I want to put forward to you, which is, in all of the crazy activities, the element of cool, the element that we are drawn to, is confidence.
yes.
The thing about the girl with the big boobs is not the big boobs,
Mm-hmm.
it's the confidence. The thing
Right.
about the stripper is the confidence. It's the owning the moment, the way,
Mm-hmm.
the race car driver taking off the helmet and
Right.
doing that with his hair. It's that confidence that
Mhm.
gets us.
Mhm.
So
I've heard this other lady who's got like a website and she does videos. I think she calls it like big dick energy.
I like that.
Right. And like men and women both can have it, but it's where you just fully are like confident and you're embracing yourself, and
Mhm.
even like a man with a small dick can have big dick energy if he's, confident, and if he can exude it and if he can just embrace it. And that is one of my challenges that I have, and I'm like working on it. I speak about challenges also in the mystery box show, that episode that I was in. I talk about working through things, and that was the other one that I did. That wasn't the sex club one. That was my first blowjob. I was talking about having challenge. I think both of them I talk about challenges actually. And they all actually have to do with my sexuality. That's like the seat of my power is in this space right here. This is where I create. This is where I get my confidence in my core and my sacral chakra. To me, this is where it starts off at. I I just do a lot of I don't know, inner growth work, working with like my demons, my shadow work, my shadow side, and the good side, and the light, and that's like, you know, and I'm a work in progress still, you know. I mean, there's some days where I feel like, oh my God, am I going to do this today? You know, and then other days I'm on top of the world and I'm like, you know, embracing it, and I've got the big dick energy. And, yeah.
That's great stuff. I think that our perception is that, well, of course she can strip because she's 23. Of course she can strip because she has big tits. Of course she can strip because that makes it other than me. That means that it excludes me from that and I can't do it. You're shining proof of the fact that those things are myths. You're shining proof of the fact
Absolutely.
that all of us can get into situations which could be adventurous and be that adventurous self.
Oh yeah, I mean that is one of the things that I am a rule breaker. I'm a stereotype breaker, and I love it. I love like every minute of it. I'm just like, yes, this is like, it doesn't get any more badass than that. But I want to touch on something that you talked about when you said, let's say a woman and her lover, they're in her, like, let's say her whole life she's made love in the dark. Like she's never had sex in, you know, in the light of day. I would say explore it. I mean, don't just like turn on every single light like one day, just be like, you know, like I'm gonna have a spotlight on me. Just, you know, maybe turn on like some mood lighting and like think about doing a little strip tease for your lover, you know, and you don't even have to take everything off, just, you know, enough to make it enticing, enough to where you're comfortable. Yeah. But just start thinking outside the box. Take that pole class, you know, do a little strip tease for your partner, put on like a sexy outfit, but start off by doing it for you.
Yeah, and I strongly encourage that
partner.
It's hard to go from being
good for you.
Right, you start with something for you. This a lot of this is a voyage for you, even though it often includes a partner. I want to spring off of that to the fact that some things that can be really sexually empowering is take salsa classes.
Oh yeah.
And it's different. You could go with your partner and you could learn together, but you could also go by yourself and do it independently of your partner and then bring that newfound confidence into the bedroom. Zumba classes are really good too. And just get physical, pole dancing lessons, find that sensual self, and then bring that tango classes, bring that into the bedroom.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm glad that you touched on like physical, like with yourself. Another thing to get in touch with femininity, you want to get outside of your head, and get more into your body, and that can like start to really like open like your mind. It can open doors, it can open new experiences. Just start getting into your body. Like every day I like to just move a little bit, you know, just like flowing, put on music, like even before I dance.
I have a friend of mine who's Cuban, and we cook together, and I have to tell you, every single time there's loud salsa music playing and we're just moving, and it's just it's part of her life,
isn't it? Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I love incorporating that a little bit. Like sometimes I'll put on salsa type music, or sometimes it'll be like flowy, and then sometimes I like to just connect with my sensual energy, even though I'm not planning on like even playing with myself or like having sex with anyone. Just touching yourself, you know. Just sometimes in the morning I'll just connect with my sexual energy, and it's good to start doing that. If you can become comfortable with yourself, you can start becoming comfortable with another person.
Yeah, something that I've started doing, and it's a really nice ritual for me, is I'll take a bath and then freshly bathed, I will lie on the bed and I'll apply lotion to myself. And it's healthy for my body to have body lotion applied to it, but it's a sensual experience. And I don't do it with the expectation of masturbation, although sometimes it'll lead into playing with myself, but it's just kind of an acknowledging of my body and its sensual self. And it feels really good. And it's that pause. It's a little bit of a pause of saying, let's just acknowledge me before I just rush off with the daily routine, you know?
Right. Let's honor ourselves. Honor ourselves first, you know?
Exactly.
Give ourselves love. Like, we don't give enough love. Like, we're always looking for outside love all the time. That is good to just start acknowledging that I love myself. That was another thing I did too, was I started doing mirror work, like around the time when I started getting
mirror
into the
work.
clubs.
Tell me more about that.
Well, just where you stand in front of the mirror, and this was what I started doing around the time when I started doing my sexual exploration in 2012. I would just look in the mirror and I would say, I love you. Like, look right in the eyes and I would say, I love you. I love you. Like, many times, like, I love you so much. I love you so much. I just can't even handle it. Whatever, you know,
that could bring up emotions.
It does. Oh my God. At first you're just like, what the hell? Like, what? It's like really awkward at first. Like, what the hell? Like, you love me? Right.
And if you can't have the mirror tell you that, then how could you have another human being tell you
right.
that?
Absolutely. So that was another thing. I started just doing lots of mirror work, like throughout the day. Like, I'd pass a mirror, I'd be like, I love you. It's so easy
make
now. I'm
peace.
like, I love you.
Make peace and then make love to the image in the mirror. I think that's a great note to end on, which is fall in love with the person in the mirror.
Absolutely. Very important. It was really crucial and important for me to just build up the confidence that I needed to have, just not in life, but, you know, to explore myself sexually, to do the work that I do. Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. And this has been the Sex Talk.